Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unboxed. We have a very special guest with us today, and he is a business strategist and also my friend. I've known Ameen Ahsan for a very long time. I have to read the intro because for me, Ameen is somebody who I know personally. But in the intro, of course, I'm going to ask him to explain everything. But in the intro, I have that he's a business strategist and a management consultant, which I didn't know, who ventured into advisory services over the past 2 decades and paved you've been operating in India for a very long time, and now you've moved to Dubai and the GCC. So rather than me explaining who you are and your background, can you explain yourself, your story, your background, what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Thank you, Jonas. It's wonderful to have you to have a sitting with you. Since we've been knowing each other from the college days, it's quite a bit tricky talking about myself to you. But as you know, I did my bachelor's and master's in the business field. I did my master's in finance and investment from Exeter University, UK. That was some 20 years back. And soon after my college day itself, I got myself into the consulting. It was not actually planned. That was not the career stream that I was looking forward to at that time. I was mainly interested in investment banking and that kind of the stream. But soon after my college, my master's in UK, I came back to India, and me and a friend of mine, we had a business idea of starting an outsourced finance or outsourced accounting. That was a pretty new concept that time. We are talking about 2 decades back. And we went to a leading entrepreneur who had several businesses in Dubai. And we pitched him the idea that, you outsource all your accounting and finance planning work to us, to India, and we'll do it for you. But then he said he's not interested in that service, but he asked us if we can prepare a business plan, a detailed business plan, what we call as project report back there, to start a newspaper. And we were not actually prepared for that because we never thought of that kind of role. But since he asked, we did it for him, and we got a very good appreciation for it. That's when we actually started thinking that this is exciting, this is interesting, and that's how I got into consulting around 20 years back. At that time, we named it as AMCG, Agency Office Consulting Group, and we ran the show for almost 1 year. Then after that, I came back to UAE. That's when I joined CII. That's where we worked together.
Yes,
when you were also there.
Yes. So that was, I think that was some of the good days. I know we both come from a strategy background, and I've worked with you with a multinational consultancy, a strategy consultancy. But I think, and that was a good experience as well. I think you were working there, and then you said, hey, come on, there's some work to do here. And that's where I was actually exposed to the strategy bit of things. And that was quite an experience. But I think over the years, what I understand is that you have started focusing more on the business strategy side of things, and I'm more focused on the brand strategy side of things. So for the listeners who don't know the difference between these two things, how would you differentiate these two aspects of strategy? I know it has the same word strategy in it, but when it comes to brand strategy, and I know what it is, but how would you define it? If someone asked you what's the difference between a brand strategy and a business strategy?
Okay, there are many areas where it actually collides, but the thing is that I see business strategy as the whole picture, which is linked to the vision of the business, where the business really wants to go, and the kind of culture that it has to build, and the business model that it is going to follow to actually, a business can have more than one business model depending on the product and the customer segments they have. And so the strategy is about where the business has to go to the future and what needs to be done with regards to that. And brand strategy is a very important part of the master strategy, wherein actually it captures how whatever the business wants to achieve has to be communicated internally and externally. I mean, branding is an aspect which has to go inside the organization first, because if you have employees who do not really understand what you represent, it's just superficial, whatever you do.
Exactly.
And the message has to go to the customers, the investors, the all stakeholders, and how the business wants it to be, the kind of impression that the business wants to portray itself into the public is communicated through the brand strategy. Yes. So that's how I take brand strategy.
It's a good definition actually, and mine is not very different from what you said, but I would just like look at it from a very, if you ask me from a very basic level what it is, I would say business strategy focus on the more functional side of the business, and brand strategy focus on more of the emotional side of the business.
Yeah.
And you know, in terms of when it comes to business strategy, it's more of financial forecasting, building a roadmap, more visionary, long-term planning, whereas brand strategy is more about defining the core, your core values or your purpose, and you know, your positioning in the market and telling a powerful story about yourself. But I'm sure one of the biggest challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis is convincing the clients about this, because when it comes to strategy, most people don't know what strategy means. They think that it's a jargon, and of course there's a reason why they think that, mostly because they don't understand what a strategy is. So it's quite challenging to educate them the need for this. In fact, what we are trying to do is enable or empower them to ensure success in their business. But I think the mindset generally is that strategy is just a waste of time, you know. And there is a reason, because it's not, we come as consultants, we give them a strategy, but most of the time it's not implemented the right way. And that's one of the key challenges that they're facing, and one of the key things that we are seeing. What happens to, you know, do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. One of the main reasons why the problem which you said exists, which where people are not, see, when you say people are not into strategy, it means people are not into future planning. I mean, that's what's happening. And the reason is that you have entrepreneurs, who have great ideas, and they just want to rule the world in few years. You know, they start the business and everything. But that initial energy and enthusiasm gets a halt, you know, when they start facing the realities and the day-to-day activities of the business. So over a period of time, they get caught up in the day-to-day activities, the daily operations. They start losing interest in the future. They're more concerned about, like, how do we move the day-to-day.
Exactly.
So,
operational side.
So what happens is that when the whole organization is focused on the present, on the moment, they know that they have to think about the future. They know that. And that is the reason why they might be contacting us, you know, because we have to. But at the same time, even they know that it's not there fully in their heart. They're still like, you know, theoretically, I know we have to grow, we have to focus on the future, we have to do that, we have to be prepared. But right now, how do we deal with this problem? How do we manage the shortage? How do we finance this thing, you know? That's where the whole problem comes. And one of the reasons why that happens is because many a times the entrepreneur becomes the employee and the manager of the company. So when that happens, he's just like an employee or a manager. They are focused in the operations of the day-to-day. Actually, the moment the strategy can be well appreciated and implemented by entrepreneurs who are leaders, who have proper delegation inside the organization, so that they don't have to answer every phone call, they don't have to deal with every small issues, so they are free. Only a free mind can actually think about the future.
Absolutely. And I think as entrepreneurs, I mean, you've done businesses, you have other businesses, I've been involved in other businesses. I think this is something that we get caught up, despite knowing everything, we ourselves get caught up in this. And I think it's natural, but being open to the idea of developing a strategy, a vision for the business is crucial. And that's where we come into the picture and try to educate, you know, entrepreneurs or decision makers that there is a real need for this. Otherwise, you know, we are looking at the short-term, implications of the business, the day-to-day operations, whereas the vision gets lost. And 2 to 3 years down the line, there's no impact. They're not creating a lot of impact. Maybe they may be able to generate some profits on a year-to-year basis, but I think the impact is much greater if they focus on the strategy bit and make sure that it's executed in a proper way. One thing I want to ask you is, like, basically, I mean, like, you've been operating in India for the past 15 years, and you've actually carved out a niche for yourself. You've positioned yourself as a person, or as a consultancy that enables or empowers entrepreneurs for the Indian audience. Like, why shift to the GCC after 15 years of operating in India? Why do you feel that there is a need for this? What happens to the India operations? Is it still on? And yeah, I just want to know why you decided to move to the GCC.
Moving to GCC was not actually a spontaneous decision. It was there in our plan always. It's just that I feel the time has come, because UAE as well as GCC as a whole is in a big transformation mode right now, especially Saudi Arabia and all. So we just decided that it was the time that we actually move in.
Okay.
So that's the basic reason why we are shifting our focus to UAE. Another thing, from a consulting point of view, see, when you talk about India, India is huge. We were operating in Kerala, which is the southernmost state of India. I feel that as a company, as a consulting firm, there is more scope for growth, more scope for exciting engagements in this part of the world than there, because based on the social, political, and opportunities that are represented there, we can have much more impact, much more involvement in much more interesting industries in this part. So what happens to my firm there is that it's still operational, it's handling clients there, but I would be using it as a platform to actually bring resources from there to participate in the activities here and grow my practice here.
I think that's where we actually have to applaud UAE, Dubai, where, you know, they've put so much of infrastructure and processes and procedures in place to make it easy for entrepreneurs and businesses to thrive. And that's why strategy is all the more important for, you know, businesses here. And I think you've taken the right move. You've taken the right decision. Now, I've spoken to you before, and on a one-to-one basis, sometimes on call. We've spoken about this for hours. And one area that you really want to focus on is the family business side of things, right? And, you know, in UAE, in the GCC, there are a lot of family businesses. Why did you feel the need to focus on family businesses? And what challenges do they face right now? And how can you come into the picture and maybe help them? What do you bring to the table?
Family businesses are actually a very important aspect of the economy, because wherever you go, there are family businesses. And some of the biggest companies in the world are actually our family businesses. Some of the big brands that we hear today are all family businesses. So what's so special about family business is that most of the business that entrepreneurs have started are going to become a family business over a period of time, because when their children joins the business or the brothers joins the business, whatever, it naturally becomes a family business. Now, the thing about family business is that it's a personal business when compared to a non-family business, because it belongs to their father or grandfather. It has got emotions deeply tied up. And that actually makes family businesses have more complications than a normal business that was started by, let's say, 100 people. The thing is that the very presence of family in the business, and that the family has to protect the business, the business has to protect the family. And there are family members who are not in the business who will be influencing the businesses, like the in-laws and everything. And the fact that even large corporations can be influenced by very silly family issues makes family business a very complicated thing. So when it comes to family business, they have to adhere to all the best practices or strategies or management that a normal business has to, or the non-family business has to do. Plus, they have to have strong family governance. They have to have a strong grooming process of the of the hires. They should have a good succession plan. They should have a good system of trust, holding companies to protect the wider family members, and a lot of such things, which are not required in other traditional companies. Like, of course, it requires succession planning, grooming and all, but this is from a family point of view. Another thing about family business is that in non-family businesses, people get promoted into senior positions based on merit and their capacity. But in a family business, just because someone is the son or a daughter of an extraordinary entrepreneur does not guarantee that he will have the same thing.
Exactly.
So that puts a lot of pressure, politics, a lot of things comes in. But that does not mean that family business is not a good way of doing business. It is still an excellent way of doing, because the most of the oldest companies that we have today are family businesses. It's just family business that doing it right.
Exactly.
But most people do not do it right.
Yeah. And now when we go to family business, we get a lot of interests from family businesses to revive their brand. And when we speak to them, one of the key things that they tell us is that there's a lot of resistance to change. The younger generation has come on board, and they want to propel the company in a different direction or into a new trajectory, and they need some help. But there's always a part of the company, where there's always a resistance to change. So how do you address this? Because again, it's not something that you can get rid of, because they're all part of the business. But this is a key crucial concern that most family businesses face on a day-to-day basis, is resistance to change. They're not open to change. But whereas there's one person, the new group CEO, or someone who's foreign educated or who's really dynamic, who wants to bring about a lot of change, but has his hands tied, what do we tell these people? How do we approach that challenge?
See, first of all, it's not an easy thing to answer, because it all depends on the family, the nature they have, the kind of backgrounds they have. A lot of factors come into play. But generally speaking, I would say that, there could be different scenarios. One scenario is that the old family is actually in control, and the new people are actually coming in. So they have new ideas, new experiments in the market, and the senior members of the family don't think that's going to work, or it's too out of focus. A lot of issues. So in such a situation, the way forward is not to actually disappoint them, because what happens when you disappoint the younger generation, they leave. They leave the company, and they'll go somewhere else. So the older generation has to trust the younger generation in a systematic manner and allow them to build satellites or different companies that does not jeopardize the main organization, because that can also happen. Just because they are young and have a new idea doesn't mean that it's right. So they should be given that kind of a lab kind of thing where they can actually incubate whatever they want and do it, and provide them calculated support. Otherwise, what will happen is they'll lose this new generation. Okay, they'll lose the confidence between which the trust level will go down. Now, suppose it's the other way around, and it's the new generation in control, but being influenced by the older generation in the business or the board or the family, whatever. It's even more trickier situation. And there, the leadership dynamicism of that person plays a very important role in communicating and winning them. And it's not easy. But what I say is that the picture or the action should start before these things actually happen.
Exactly.
See, there is a difference between resolving an issue that two people already have, and it's quite difficult, because you never know what they said to each other, what they did to each other, stuff like that. But if you have a system before that where such things can be minimized, then it's much more in control.
Exactly.
So that is where, when a family is growing and a family senses that it doesn't have to sense, it's actually going to happen. So the moment the family realizes that we should not have such issues, they should start building process behind. Not when they have an issue, just even before having an issue. That is when they have to build a corporate governance or a family governance, where it defines how the family will be dealing with the business.
All right.
Okay, and it should also have a system of actually separating management from ownership. It's not really a good idea that in the second generation, third generation, that the family has to be in the business. The most important thing is that the business provides for the family, not that the business should provide a job for the family.
Exactly.
Okay, so when that happens, when that such kind of system happens, definitely there will be much more freedom for the professional management to do.
True.
And then if you have systems of grooming and allocation, policies and everything goes through the policy. So if a new generation comes with something which doesn't fit in, he understands it's because of this policy.
Very valid points. I think you've actually nailed it, and it's very easy for me to understand exactly because I haven't delved too deep into the family business side of things. But when you explain it to me, I think it's more clear and very easy to understand. I think some of the key things that we need to put in place is the openness to bring about that openness to change, and also the controls in place. Having certain controls, it's challenging, but if we have controls in place, you have a better impact. You're able to create a better impact as a brand, as a business, moving forward. Now, I don't want you to give away your trade secrets, but in a nutshell, like when a business comes to you, like let's say a startup or an existing established business comes to you, what is the process that you deploy in understanding the strength of their business model, or how do you go about the whole process of developing a strategy for them? How long does it take? What are the costs involved, or what are the processes involved? If you could just give a high-level idea of this, it will help our listeners actually to think about these things.
Okay, usually established business approach us for different type of consulting. Sometimes it is about professionalizing their operation, because many a times a business gets started in a very organic manner, bootstrapped, and the entrepreneur might not come from a professional background or a business background. So it was all trial and error, and somehow he actually has a good organization which is making good profit and stuff like that. But then he realizes that it is not sustainable, and it can break at any time. So he approaches us to actually professionalize it. In certain cases, it's a successful business that actually is planning on growth. People many a times think that if the business is good, they can grow just like that, using the same infrastructure, same systems, but that is wrong. Growth requires different planning, different system, different strategy, altogether different, I would say a different department maybe. So that time people can come to us asking us how to actually structure organization to enable growth. So when such organizations come to us, what we do is that after the initial briefings and stuff like that, when we kick off the meeting, the first thing that we do is we do a market audit. We study the position of that business in the market first. How is it with the customers? How is it with their buyers? I mean, maybe it's retailers in between who actually sell their product. How are their competitors doing? What is the industry heading? Sometimes your industry might be going to a death, but it might be doing good now, but it's going to die any soon.
Exactly.
So there is no point in building stuff on something that doesn't have future.
Exactly.
The thought should be on diversification.
True.
So we study the industry, we study the competition, we study their customers, we even study their vendors. Because this is how the business is reacting to the external parties, and we see where they are. It's interesting that many a times we have clients who come to us and say, we are number one in the market, we are number two in the market, we are the most cost effective, we are the best product. And that may not be the truth. It's their ego that's speaking. Yeah. Or they never updated themselves. They didn't see the new players who are taking in the market, who's actually steering their customer from one side. True. So we study that and we understand their SWOT, their strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Then we actually study their business. We do a business audit. We study their operations, how we interview almost everybody in the organization, depending on the size of the organization. We interview the leaders, the managers, the employees, and everybody. And through them, we try to understand how much they understand their job, what are they doing, what do they think of the company. Many times the company employees will not know what the company is all about. And the areas of improvement that they see. Okay. Many times the employees know how to do something better, but they are not communicating it because nobody asked them. Or there is prejudice and other kind of biases in the organization that prevents them from talking, or people do not listen to them. So we get all those information, and then we also identify the things that we think was not right or which is good. And then we build an issue tree. And in this issue tree, we actually identify the core issues that is causing all the other symptoms that's showing out in the organization. And once we analyze the core issues that the business is suffering from, then before going to solutions, we actually have a vision session with the client. where we actually we ensure that all the decision makers or all the managers are involved in the process, because we want it to be a shared vision. We don't want it to be an island vision, which is only a matter of the entrepreneur and nobody else is connected to it. And once this shared vision is designed, or I would say the milestones are fixed, the values are fixed, the mission is fixed, the core values are decided, everything, and it should come as shared because everybody should feel part of it. Then we design the business model. And the business model is very important in any business. And business model is perhaps the major factor why most businesses are not able to compete in the market. They think that by increasing their marketing budget or sales budget or changing the packaging, whatever, that they can actually win in the market. But the truth is that if you structurally are not right, you're targeting the wrong customer segment or you're offering them the wrong thing, no matter of adding color is going to help. Cosmetic surgery is not going to help there.
Yeah.
So we identify who the customer should be. Sometimes they have to change their customer segment. Sometimes they have to reorient to their customer segment. And business model is a huge topic. I mean, we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So we structure their business model for them. And then to achieve this business model and to achieve the vision, understanding the weaknesses and the problems of the business, we identify the solutions. And these solutions are converted into action plans on a department basis. And we use our change agents to actually implement that change in that organization. We usually take 1 year's contract because change takes time. We cannot just implement all the 100 decisions that we took at once. It has to come because we have to win the confidence of the management.
True.
We have to win the confidence of the employees who are doing the job. And we even have to perhaps win the confidence of the customers. So it's a slow process and it's an experimental process. It's not like we draft something and that's the end of it. No. Maybe it has to change. Maybe when we test in the field, the reaction is not what we expected. So we go further study it and make changes. And it's an experimentation process of implementation and testing for a year. And sometimes if the client is happy with the work and the change still needs support, we continue it. That's how it goes.
That was actually quite detailed and quite interesting as well for me. One thing that really caught my attention when you said about, are you in the right industry? And sometimes, you may be putting all that effort, money, time, and investment into the wrong industry, especially at today's time where, AI is taking over. There's a thing, there's a kind of mindset that people are going to lose jobs. Some of the industries are going to be, obsolete. So I think this is the right time for companies to explore. Are we relevant, right now? And where do we see ourselves in the next 5 or 6 years, especially because of the advent in technology or the changes that's happening around us, the landscape, the environment. So I think this is something all business owners need to think about at this stage, I believe, right? And some of what you touched upon is something exactly what we tell our clients. You need to understand, you need to position yourself. And positioning is not just drawing a chart and plotting a couple of points in there. It's understanding what is the problems your customers are facing, what are the solutions they're looking for, what are the challenges out there, and trying to tailor a solution for them rather than, off-the-shelf thing. So from our side, we look at the emotional side of the business, and I think from your side, you're looking more on the functional side of what business does every day.
Yeah, the thing which I want to add to the point you just said is that not every entrepreneur actually deserves to grow in a big way, because today the concept of success, the concept of being a huge entrepreneur, billionaire, unicorns, and it has become a kind of cliche or an Instagram trend kind of thing that everybody aspires to be a huge enterprise with hundreds of branches and everything. But the truth is that not every entrepreneur has the fire for it. Deep inside, they don't even believe in that. They just want to have their life going smoothly. They are not ready to sacrifice many things for that success which they claim to want, or they write on their boards or on their vision statements. It's a very small minority of entrepreneurs who actually truly have that fire in the belly. And it is only those people who will go towards that extra mile to ensure that the organization actually grows at any cost. The rest of the people, what happens is that they might come to me, they might come to you, because that's how it has to be, and they'll engage us. But consulting is not just like cutting a butter or something like that. There is definitely going to be hiccups.
Yes.
There is definitely going to be surprises. There is definitely going to be resistance.
True.
Because people like to live in comfort zones.
Yeah, exactly.
So when they face these things and they are like, if they start to shiver, then they will discontinue.
Yeah.
They themselves will become a hindrance in the, and that's the reason. They were not the right people.
Exactly. And this is what I tell most of our customers who come walking through the door, and when we tell them the importance of strategy and the importance of positioning your brand and telling a powerful story, I tell them, guys, don't do this if you really want to change the logo. You can go to a freelancer, he'll do a beautiful logo for you and stuff like that. If you really want to position yourself as a top 10 player or the top 3 player in the market, and if you really have that drive and vision, then think about it. If you just want to, get a few followers or, generate a couple of additional leads, just go update your logo and brochure and website and go to a freelancer. They'll do it happily for you. So this is my message. Sometimes I'm actually rude to clients, and because sometimes they fail to understand this. You need to have a drive, a passion, a vision to take your business to the top 10 or top 3, and then that hunger, like you said, the fire in the belly kind of thing. Only if you have that, you need to do all this. Otherwise, don't spend your time. You're wasting our time, you're wasting your time, and it doesn't really create anything, and it just fizzles out. We do this exercise and you don't see the result, and then you start complaining and crying about it. So I think that is something that we really need to educate.
Actually, you just reminded me of one event which I had with a prospect.
Okay.
We were having the meeting, and in the end he said, Ameen, I need you to constantly motivate me. I told him, I don't motivate anyone. The only thing that I might do is demotivate.
All right.
I only deal with motivated people.
All right.
I mean, that's the point. Motivation is a different department. It's a different kind of thing.
All right.
If you have to be motivated, you are not in the league,
True.
You have to be motivated from within.
True.
It's not something induced externally.
True.
That's the kind of people which I mentioned,
True.
People who want to grow because everybody's growing. That's the trend. How can I be an entrepreneur without a vision?
True. Exactly. I think I have a lot more things to ask you, but I just want to, wrap up today's session. Essentially, what is if you had to give an advice for a budding entrepreneur or somebody who's just starting up their business, maybe they don't have really the funds to go in for a full-fledged strategy or something, what would be your advice for them, from your side, being in the industry, working with a lot of businesses, brands? What kind of lessons do you have for them?
Okay.
Advice.
Okay, so it's like entrepreneurship is a trend right now. Kids who finish their colleges, they just want to start something new.
Mm-hmm.
And my first advice to young entrepreneurs would be, if you're planning to start a business so that you can get rich fast, you can have a carefree life, and you don't have a boss about you, then actually you are wasting your time. Don't become an entrepreneur, because that is not the reality. In reality, you will be working much more than you will be working inside, working as an employee. You will have to be much more disciplined than what you see entrepreneurs who are, having a good life on Instagram, and you are not going to be rich very fast. The people who get rich very fast are anomalies, and you should not follow anomalies. You have to be realistic. But if you're talking about an entrepreneur who's young and who seriously wants to start a business, who understands the reality, I would say that, of course, there is a lot of advices that we have to give to them. But if you're asking me for one advice, I would say that he should focus and be very serious and be very clear about his business model.
All right.
I won't even say vision is important at that stage. I would say vision is really important at a later stage when a business has solid financials,
Some traction.
Some traction. Of course, you can have a dream, but the very concept of I should be there and I should be this, should be made more clear when you're standing on both your feet in a proper way. Before that, you should be considering your business model. Who is your target customer segment, and what is their pain, and what is the gain, and what is the task that they want to get accomplished, and how are you going to do it different from your competitor? Because what most people do is that they copy another business. And in the process, they are copying their business model.
True.
And in the result, what happens is that to a customer, both these businesses are same. Then the only differentiating factor would be the price. And that begins the price war. And in a price war, nobody wins.
Exactly.
Even the customer doesn't win at the end of the day.
Exactly. What's next for AASC? Now you've moved to GCC. You've started your operations. I'm sure you're working with clients here. What's the next step? Where do you see yourself next, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 years? What is your goals?
AASC would be focusing on getting more clients in GCC, and we might be even setting up another facility in Saudi Arabia.
Are you focusing now? Previously, you've been focusing on a specific community or a specific segment of the market, more focused on the Indian population. But is it a more broader, expanded view right now? Is that the reason why are you bringing your expertise to this market and expanding the profile?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
The idea is to serve all type of clients, because that is what Dubai is. Dubai is an international exposure, and we are looking for international clients. And the Indian population definitely is a major segment, a major portion of the UAE population here. And we can actually help companies actually understand them better and connect with them better. And personally, another agenda that I have is that more than the consulting fees, I have a plan of selecting 4 to 5 businesses where we will be consulting for equity participation. So in the process, over a period of 10 years.
Very exciting actually.
Over a period of 10 years time, AASC might become a holding company.
Wow.
An asset management company. Yeah, that's
nice.
That's the point.
And that's really interesting. Let me know if you have any openings there.
Sure.
So thank you, Ameen. I just want to thank you for your time. I think that was quite an insightful session with you. I think I've learned a lot of things, because when we talk on a casual basis, we don't explore the nitty-gritty things. We just talk at a high level, or we don't. But when I listen to you talk now and get into the details and the process, and I think it really adds value for people. Someone who's looking for this change, it really adds value to do this at some point of time. Be it brand strategy, be it business strategy. Strategy is key. That is the roadmap. That is the plan, and that drives you. That should drive you forward. So I guess that's it. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Unboxed. I hope it was helpful. I think it was definitely helpful for me to understand a lot of things, learn a lot of things. And that's what we want to do here. We want to add value for our listeners. Anyone who's tuning in, they take something away after each episode. It doesn't really matter what industry it is. What we want to create is value. So that the time that you spend with us, you learn something, you take away something, and then hopefully transform your lives, your businesses, and generally everything. So thank you so much, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.